One of our core commitments here at Hills Bible Church is to impact God's world. We want to be true to the Great Commission. Jesus left his disciples and the church to take the gospel and preach and proclaim the gospel to all people groups all over the globe as the Lord leads us to, that they would hear and believe the Lord Jesus Christ. We want to train our people to take the gospel to their families, to their friends, to their workplaces, to their neighborhoods. But also part of this is to send out missionaries and support those missionaries. And when we do this, we want to send and send well. We want to provide prayer support, financial support, but also pastoral support. We want to, where possible, to visit them on the ground. And I had the special privilege to go to Northeast Arnhem land to visit Tim and Georgie Balance Webb along with Simon Keppert to see the work that they are doing with MAF. MAF is there to service the homeland communities of the Aboriginal people, the Luyungu people, and we had the opportunity, myself and Isabel, my daughter, to fly up with Simon to one of those communities, to Gunamaru, and worship with fellow believers there in that community, and to see the work that's going on and to bring back this report. Thanks.
A passion for flying and for aviation that I've had ever since I was a kid, and I believe that's something that God gave me to then use for His glory. And yeah, as I grew as a Christian and grew in my faith through high school, really felt convicted that I should use my skills and passions to serve God and to glorify Him. So yeah, from there I got in contact with MAF and kind of went from there. And we're going to take a plane and fly out to a homeland about 25 minutes away called Gunamaru. I've been up here for about 2.5 years now, and I'm flying 3 days a week. So I'll fly out to very isolated Aboriginal homelands and communities, giving all kinds of support, both physical and spiritual. And 1 day a week I'm in the office looking after our tablets, which pilots use as part of our flight planning and things. What I love most about working up here is seeing change happen in the homelands and being able to support the homelands and keep them running. There are a lot of difficulties that the young will face up in Arnhem Land. There's a lot of them struggle with drugs and alcohol, and sometimes child abuse and domestic violence. And we've seen the gospel work to slowly bring about change, especially in certain individuals. There's a guy named Mark who was telling me how 20 years ago he was addicted to alcohol and drugs, and he was living in one of the bigger towns, but then he moved back into his homeland called Gungun, and being there with a smaller close-knit community, as well as coming to Christ and experiencing the freedom that Christ brings, allowed him and his wife to break their addictions.
So MAF believe very strongly in enabling people to stay in the homelands by supporting them in being there, providing them with access to medical care and education, and just enabling them to live there in a way that is even healthier, because they can do their traditional hunting and their traditional medicines, but also, if need be, they can have a nurse come out and do vaccinations for their kids, or if a mother's going into labour, then a midwife can be flown out to assist her, which is really helpful to them. So it means that they can stay in the homelands and be at their most physically healthy, which means that they're at the most spiritually open for receiving the gospel.
There's also a sense of disenfranchisement because they're not living on their land. They feel at the whim of whatever government policies in place at the time. Whereas in the homeland there's a lot more traditional society with an elder, and they are a lot more receptive to the gospel. I had a flight the other day out to a place called Bremer Island, and I was chatting to one of the people there, and he was just saying, I want you to come into the homelands more because it's where we have the time to sit and listen to what you tell us.
Knowing that Jesus is Lord of all, He's the name above all names, He's risen from the dead, and that at the end of days all tongues and all nations will bow, and there'll be people from everywhere worshipping in heaven encourages me, because I know that in heaven I'll be worshipping alongside Yulngu, who I've potentially had a difference in their lives and a part of bringing them towards the gospel, and that'll be really special one day. It's common for people to look at missionaries and say, oh, they're very special, they must have a perfect Christian life and a specific call in their life. And some people certainly do get specific calls to go to a certain place and do a certain thing, but there's a very general call to bring the gospel to all nations and to all peoples. So I really encourage you to think about your skills and your giftings, what you could do to use what God's given you to give back to God.